Watch this.
This has never happened before, so the city of Caldwell was left wondering how to handle their runoff election for mayor. Yesterday, one of the candidates wanted out, but could he just quit? We get a clearer picture today. It's a rarity in this hot housing market, having one sit for sale for years. But sometimes it's about selling to the right buyer. Well, the owner of this historic Eagle home finally did. We've been in this global pandemic for more than a year and a half and dealing with supply shortages of one thing or another for about the same time. A lack of metal is once again making it tough on the medical industry. Okay, so who will be Caldwell's next mayor? It's a question we thought we had a handle on when we talked about it yesterday. To be fair, though, it was clear as mud after it was explained to us. 5 candidates went into Election Day last week with a shot at it to replace the outgoing 6-term, nearly a quarter century of service as mayor Garrett Nancolis. But with an extensive field, that usually dilutes the votes. And that's what happened. None of them got more than the 50% needed to be named the winner. So the top 2, Jeremy Wagner with 47% of the votes and John McGee with 22, well, they were headed for a runoff at the end of this month. Then yesterday, McGee decided, instead of continuing to compete with his fellow city council member, he decided he'd just step aside and give the seat to Wagner. A decision his attorney wanted verified by a judge, but the judge, he wanted no part of it and said withdrawing from a runoff election, that's going to have to be settled by the city clerk. And it would seem so easy if she would just be like, cool. But after having more than 24 hours to dig through state statutes and city ordinances, the city of Caldwell says the mayoral runoff is on. This morning, Caldwell City Clerk Debbie Geyer said she, along with the city attorney, came to the conclusion because, well, no one got that 50% threshold, and because McGee did not give at least 46 days notice, he wanted out, which is required by law, but which is also impossible since there are only 21 days left until the runoff, and because Idaho law does not provide a clear answer on what to do when this happens, well, the runoff election will go on as planned, with 2 names on the ballot on November 30th, with John McGee wearing the reluctant candidate label. Because, he said this afternoon, while he respects the clerk's decision, he believes the people of Caldwell have made their preference perfectly clear, and he will not be campaigning for the office of mayor nor taking any further legal action. But what happens if the man who doesn't want it, well, gets the win in the runoff? I'm guessing there's nothing in the books about that either. Well, the pandemic has put a lot of us through a lot of different predicaments. The severity spanned the spectrum, from the absurd, like runs on toilet paper, to the critical, like crisis standards of care in our hospitals. There's a shortage of bikes or baking essentials, used cars, lumber, cleaning supplies, glass jars, cereal, whatever. Just fill in the blank. Shortage has become a vital part of the public health vocabulary. Sadly, the medical field has been in the middle of most of these inadequacies. Personal protective equipment at the beginning, remember that? To now IV poles, syringes, and apparently crutches. Modern crutches are made of aluminum, and according to global wholesaler Alumco Group, there's currently a global aluminum shortage because of, well, 3 things. Increased construction because of stimulus packages out there, increased investment in green technologies, which includes aluminum because it's lightweight and better than plastic, and mostly because there's been a production cut in China. China produces about 58% of the world's aluminum, we're told, and about 80% of the world's magnesium, which is used to harden aluminum. So that shortage has recently trickled down to our area healthcare facilities. Primary Health operates about 24 urgent care clinics around the Treasure Valley, the kind of place you might go with a leg injury, and a place where they might send you home with crutches to help with said leg injury. About a month ago, Dr. Derek Hamblin, the urgent care director with Primary Health, he started noticing they were running out of crutches to provide for their patients, specifically the mid-5-foot range. But it wasn't until he made some calls did he realize the situation.
So when this first happened to me, I called all our neighboring clinics. We called all the pharmacies. I think it was in Nampa. I was working there, and called Norco, and we couldn't find any.
Wow.
And we talked to our supplier, and they told us that they're looking at shortages and difficulty getting crutches through mid 2022, so mid next year. So this is not a short-term problem. This is something we can do something about now.
So what are you guys hoping happens now? What do you want to see happen?
We want people who aren't using their crutches to bring them in so that we can evaluate them, fix them, and clean them up, and then redistribute them out to patients who need them. And then those patients, when they're done using them, if they could bring it back to us and do the same, this will allow us to hopefully get through the shortage.
Have you ever had to rely on donations as a medical facility?
No, especially in medicine, right? I mean, usually everything's kind of new and clean. You don't do donations. So, but I mean, it's aluminum. It's something we can clean and disinfect. And if you have a patient who needs to take the weight off their leg and they can't do it, I mean, that's difficult.
Well, Dr. Hamblin told us urgent care doctors usually send about 10 to 15 patients a week home with crutches. And as you heard him, this shortage is expected to last through the middle of next year, barring any significant changes. Now, their donation drive begins this week, so they're asking you to bring in some crutches that you are not using that are in decent condition to any of these 3 locations on the screen here. Friday, November 12th when it starts, and it's going to run until they can get these crutches easily from their suppliers, or at least on a more consistent level. You can see the drop-off locations on this screen. It goes from Boise to Garden City to Nampa. We'll also include them on our website. For their part, he told us they won't be charging patients for these crutches that are donated, and they will ask them to return them when they no longer need them. But it's not just primary health. We called a couple of other medical supply places around town and see what they're seeing, and they are seeing the same thing, they said. For example, Mountain Brace Systems in Boise said they've ordered 50 cases of crutches since July, and they've only received 3 of them. The aluminum shortage is also extended to breweries, by the way, known right now as the Candemic, because apparently we've been consuming our beverages in the living room instead of the bar room this last year and a half. And of course, our current obsession with seltzers, which is how White Claw Wednesdays are now a thing. A historic home in Eagle sat on the market for years, waiting for the right buyer. Now that the title has finally been transferred, will the home be preserved or pulverized in the name of prime property? Is there something you want us to update? Whether it's a story we did last week to one we did 8 years ago. Sometimes we lose track and need to be reminded. Text us your ideas at the number on the screen, 208-321-5614. You can also send us your thoughts and other comments. Just be sure to include your name in the hashtag #the208. We're going to share as many as we can at the end of the show, so stick around. All right, back in the early 70s, when Eagle became an official city of Idaho, there were only about 500 people living there. Since then, it's ballooned to become one of the largest cities in the state, almost in the top 10. And along with that increase in population came the increase in home prices, of course. Back in 2017, you could have had one of the Eagle's oldest homes for a pretty penny. Well, a lot of them, actually. In July of that year, that home went on the market for the first time ever, a home that once belonged to Orville Jackson, a very prominent member of the community, one whose name is still around town if you've been there. But his daughter, who later took over ownership of the home, said she had a hard time attracting buyers for one specific reason. The city of Eagle didn't officially become a city until 1971. but it had been a thriving community for decades before, built up with its own bank, hotel, and downtown drugstore. Widely known as the Orville Jackson Drugstore for more than 50 years.
Well, when I grew up, they always said Orville Jackson put Eagle on the map. That's what I always heard.
His daughter, Sherry Sharp, still lives in the family home about a block away on Eagle Road.
This house is 5 years older than me. The house was built in 1931, so it's 86 years old.
It was right in the middle of the Great Depression. Money was tight, but the Jacksons had put enough aside for a new home.
My dad said my mother counted that money so much he was afraid she'd rub the numbers off it.
They'd wanted something special. So Sherry says they called on John Turtlette and Charles Hummel, the same Treasure Valley architects that designed Idaho's State House, to put together this Tudor-style home, a vision of Orville's wife, Floy.
So I think maybe in her mind she had like her dream house.
Back then, workers were paid $1 a day to complete the 3,100 square foot home in the middle of 2.5 acres. Total cost was about $10,000. Today, the Jackson home is for sale for about $1.7 million. It still has the original leaded windows, the original woodwork and oak beams inside, and the memories of their only daughter, who wants to see it saved for future generations.
I want to save it because it meant so much to them.
Sherry says she's getting too old to care for the home herself, but hopes her parents' contribution to this community would help keep the property preserved for something other than commercial progress.
That's why I've persevered and stayed here this long, hoping that I could find someone that would share my dream and purchase this property and save this home.
Okay, so that leads us to this update. The Jackson house has now been sold. 90 years after it was built, the home has a new owner, and that owner is looking to fulfill the wishes of Orville Jackson's daughter, as you just heard. They are going to preserve it, and they're going to share the space with the community. For details on the sale and future of this home, Joe Paris spoke with the new owner, the City of Eagle, and Mayor Jason Pierce.
If you've driven down this road since the 1930s, chances are you've seen this house.
Well, behind me is what we call the Jackson House.
Standing in front of the Jackson House, Eagle Mayor Jason Pierce. He has the scoop on the future of this home and 2.5-acre property.
We purchased this back in September. We are looking to make it I kind of pictured as Eagle's little own Central Park.
The City of Eagle paid $1 million for the property and home. Mayor Pierce says he already envisions great community happenings here.
It'll be a place where we'll have events. We'll have expand our Saturday market. It'll be an event center that people will be able to rent to do weddings or other type of events. We won't have any kind of kitchen amenities in it so that our local restaurants will be able to do the catering and support them.
For Mayor Pierce, this project is personal. He's had an idea about this spot for a while now.
I have to be honest with you, I've been working on this for 15 years.
The idea is to preserve the history, culture, and tradition of this iconic home.
I didn't want to see a developer tear it down. I didn't want to see other things happen here. I think the residents of Eagle really wanted to see it stay what it was, and now they'll get to be a part of seeing it and seeing what it does moving forward.
Mayor Pierce hopes to supplement the historical home with the tribute to the man and family that built this home and also helped to build this community.
Really looking to maybe do something with a tribute to Orville Jackson and have his own little museum in this building also somewhere, so that people just never forget those that came before them and made Eagle a great community that they've all moved to or decided to live in for years and years.
It's no secret that this is very valuable land in downtown Eagle, leading to a question. What if leadership in the future wanted to sell the house off to developers?
We actually have it deed restricted. So if the city ever wanted to do anything other than what we've said we're going to do, which is leave it here, they would have to go back to the heirs of the family and give them the opportunity to purchase it or take it back. So, we really want to make sure this is what it would stay as.
For the next several months, there will be some landscaping and refurbishing done on the property, with the plan to start hosting the community here by next year.
Looking at about September to December of next year, trying to find ways to get the public out here, and we'll do a big grand opening and show everybody what it's all about and have tours going through it. I think everybody that drives by here has really always thought, God, it's such a great place. I'd love to see what was inside of it, and now they'll be able to do that.
Okay, Joe, so back in 2017 when that house went on the market, Mayor Pierce wasn't the mayor of Eagle at that point, but he'd been wanting this to be part of the city for a long time. So now, what was the pushing point for the Sharps to finally sell?
Well, Mayor Pierce told me earlier, Brian, that it really came down to the time was now, and they decided with the family that this was really a good time to do this. The impression I got from Mayor Pierce is that the family had decided just to move on from the property at this point. And really, I mean, the deal maker here is that the city of Eagle, they didn't want to demolish the house. They didn't want to do anything with the property other than restore it and keep it there. And you could hear the passion from Mayor Pierce in the interview. He cared so much about this house and this property and preserving it for future generations. And I was talking with Kim on the news at 4 that once you knock down a Depression era house, that house is gone.
Yep.
And that history is gone. And we'll always have the pictures and stuff, but it's really a unique piece of history in Eagle, as you went and saw. And it's crazy to think that it was there significantly longer than the city of Eagle even existed.
And so they bought it for $1 million. What I guess the benefit of that is if somebody had purchased it to live in it, they'd have to do a lot more renovation to preserve it and kind of getting up to, well, modern standards. Maybe not so much these days, but still some stuff has to be done.
Yeah, there's, as you can see in the video, there is some work to be done on the property and inside the home as well, but they're going to refurbish it. And as you heard the mayor say, hopefully next September, in between September and December, they're going to open it for the community. And I can tell you just the impression I got from the mayor and his vision, it's going to be a really interesting community spot. And it feels like something that's already a home for the community. Now they're invited to go inside.
And if you've been to Eagle, you see the historic buildings already around town. So this is just one of those that they're going to add to their collection, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
All right, it's a constant request on our part. We want you to send us your questions, something simple or something that might require a little digging. We do read them all, the ones you send to us, even if we don't always get around to answering every single one. But we do try, like this one from Karen who asked, is there any data showing a difference in Pfizer versus Moderna or Johnson & Johnson vaccinated patients with the number of breakthrough cases of COVID? Okay, so we looked into this. In Idaho, there have been 15,713 total breakthrough cases since COVID vaccines became available to the public. Less than 2% of the fully vaccinated people in Idaho have gotten a breakthrough case. We reached out to the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare to see if there was a trend among specific vaccine brands or if it's just kind of across the board. And here's what they told us. Of those 1.9% breakthrough cases, this is how they break down by specific vaccines. Gray bars that you see on your screen, that represents the percentage of Idahoans who got that vaccine. Purple would be the breakthrough cases. Looking away over on the left there, the Johnson & Johnson or the Janssen vaccine. 8% of vaccinated Idahoans received this one-dose vaccine, 11% of the total breakthrough cases. So you can see it's a little bit higher than the actual number. In the middle, that's where we look at the Moderna cases. 35% of vaccinated Idahoans got the Moderna vaccine. Only accounts for 29% of the breakthrough cases, though. On the far right, that's where we see Pfizer. 57% of vaccinated Idahoans got the Pfizer vaccine, but it accounts for about 60% of all breakthrough cases, as you can see there. So it's a little bit different there. It kind of breaks down a few more percentage-wise. Basically, Pfizer, #1 vaccine in Idaho, also #1 vaccine for breakthrough cases. Moderna, #2, second, and Johnson & Johnson is last. To possibly help keep breakthroughs at bay, though, yesterday Pfizer asked the FDA for full approval of their booster shots for everyone, not just those over 65 or with pre-existing conditions. So if the FDA signs off on that, it would then go to the CDC for their final approval.
Really hope you enjoyed the sunshine that we saw this afternoon, especially along the foothills. And here very soon we could be seeing some snow on some of the foothills, as well as the temperatures are going to be dropping, especially as we get into next week. This morning, though, we had 35 degrees. Of course, it had to clear out, so we had no precipitation with that. It was down to 36 degrees for the low in Twin Falls. Highs this afternoon, excuse me, we're up to 50 degrees for Boise, so not really a warm afternoon, 46 degrees for Twin Falls. And those are your high temperatures there. Now, in the way of rain, expecting rain tomorrow in the morning and another surge about midday. And the recent models now is putting a little more rain in here, almost up to about 1/4 of an inch for the Boise area and throughout the Boise Valley. About 3/3 of an inch for Twin Falls, so a little different there. Now, so far, we're just doing really good with the rain. Now, of course, it's a La Nina year, and since last month, we've received 2.5 inches, 2.5 inches of rain. Normal up to this time is about just a little over an inch. So that means that we are above normal by 1.45, so nearly 1.5 inches at this point. That's good to see. Now, your 7-day forecast still has more rain in it. We have a chance of rain for tomorrow, temperature 51. Nice weekend. This is great timing. See how it dries up? Temperatures get near 60 degrees by Sunday. Monday's pretty nice too. Late in the evening, there's a shower, and the same thing for Tuesday. Next week, here's the big part about it. As this storm system clears out, Wednesday's low temperature gets down to about 32. So we're going to get back to some of those cold temperatures once again. That's your forecast.
A couple of 30-degree temperatures on that forecast there. Any else wake up this morning wishing they didn't leave their windows open overnight? It was hovering above freezing this morning, so might be time to close the windows for the rest of the season, as you can see by that 7-day forecast. It also means, though, our area mountains are starting to see snow on a regular basis. As we just heard from Rick, we can expect some more, and we also see it from our Idaho Weather Watchers Facebook group. Okay, so tomorrow, the 11th day of the 11th month, is Veterans Day, a day we like to honor right along with the rest of you in the 208. Now, tomorrow, we're hoping to honor the veterans in your life like we have over the last couple of years. We want to show and tell you about them, but we need your help to do that. We want you to send us a picture of your veteran and make sure to include their name. We want to know their branch of service, what part of the conflict they were a part of, if they were a part around the world, and probably most importantly, we want you to share a little bit about them with us, something personal, maybe something funny. It's all about sharing their stories and thanking them for their service. And there are several ways that you can get in touch with us. They're listed right there on your screen, from Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and by email. You can also text us, that number again, 208-321-5614. Just make sure to include the hashtag the208 because that's the way we know it's for us. And it's from you. All right, let's get a look at some of your comments you sent in. Final minute of the show. Karen says the report on the Jackson home and Eagle was great. Loved it. Thank you very much. Hope they make Sherry's wishes come true. Eagle was my home, and everyone loved the drugstore and the Jackson family, she says. Thank you for sharing that with us. The USA shortages are because of greedy businesses that go offshore, says Larry. We need to demand only USA-built items, and our shortages would disappear. What do you think that would do to the price of things, though? Larry, that's my question to you. Probably go up, right? Well, that is stupid. If McGee doesn't want the job, why waste money on a runoff election, asked Candy. Well, because they don't know what else to do. They weren't told by the books that they had to do it this way, so they just don't want to offend anybody or do something wrong, so they're just going to go with it, even though he's on the board. Could we see McGee, please don't vote for me campaign signs? That would be awesome, asked Joe and Eagle. Yeah, it would be, or says Joe and Eagle. He's over there right now scribbling in the don't across the elect. Little carrot, don't elect John McGee.